What if someone handed you a check every single month? Not for working, not for a side hustle, but simply because you owned the right piece of real estate. That's not a fantasy. That's passive income. And in this video, we're going to show you exactly how it works. For over a century, real estate has created more millionaires than any other asset class on earth. Not stocks, not crypto, not businesses. Real estate. The reason is simple. Land is finite. They're not making more of it. While paper assets can vanish overnight in a market crash, physical property holds an intrinsic value. People always need somewhere to live, somewhere to work, somewhere to store their lives. But here's what separates real estate from simply buying a house to live in. When you buy an investment property, meaning a property that other people pay you to use, you gain something most assets can never offer you. Multiple income streams from a single purchase. Think about that. One asset, multiple returns. First, you collect rental income every month. Your tenants pay your mortgage, and then some. Second, your property appreciates over time. Historically, U.S. real estate has grown at roughly 3 to 4% per year. Over a decade, a $200,000 property becomes a $300,000 property without you lifting a finger. Third, your tenants are paying down your mortgage balance every single month. Equity you didn't earn with labor, you earned it with ownership. This triple return, cash flow, appreciation, and equity buildup is why Warren Buffett has called real estate one of the best investments available to the average American. It's why self-made wealthy families across generations have always held real estate, not as a gamble, as a foundation. Now here's where real estate does something no other investment can match, and it's called leverage. When you invest in the stock market, you invest your money. You put in $10,000, you own $10,000 of stock. Simple. But in real estate, you can control a $200,000 asset with just $40,000 of your own money, a 20% down payment. The bank funds the rest. So when that property appreciates by 10%, a $20,000 gain, you didn't make 10% on your $40,000, you made 50%. That's the power of leverage. You're earning returns on the full asset value while only committing a fraction of the capital. And this scales. Once you build equity in your first property, you can tap that equity to fund a second down payment. Then a third. Real estate investors call this the wealth ladder. Each rung lifts you to the next. The early ones are the hardest, but once you're climbing, the momentum builds fast. The key insight: you don't need to be rich to start. A first-time investor with $40,000 saved can control a $200,000 income-producing asset. That's not theoretical. That happens every day in cities and towns across America. Let's talk about the two engines of real estate wealth, because understanding this distinction will save you from making the biggest mistake new investors make. Engine one is cash flow. This is money in your pocket every single month. You buy a property, rent it out, and after paying the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and maintenance, there's a surplus. That's your cash flow, pure, recurring, passive income. A well-chosen single-family rental in a strong rental market might generate $200 to $600 per month in positive cash flow. A small multifamily property, a duplex or fourplex, might generate $800 to $2,000 per month. Engine two is appreciation. Over time, properties in most markets increase in value. You don't do anything for this gain. Inflation, local demand, and limited supply do the work for you. A property bought for $200,000 in a growing city might be worth $300,000 in 10 years. That's $100,000 in wealth created while you were doing something else entirely. Now here's the mistake. Many new investors chase appreciation in hot markets. They buy in expensive coastal cities, break even, or lose money every month on cash flow and hope the property value rises. Sometimes it does, but they're betting. Real passive income investors focus on cash flow markets first. They find cities where rents are high relative to purchase prices. The Midwest, the South, secondary markets in the Southeast. Markets where a $200,000 property generates genuine positive cash flow from day one. Appreciation is the bonus. Cash flow is the strategy. So how do you actually find a deal? Let's walk through the exact process. Step 1. Choose your market. Don't just invest in your backyard because it's convenient. Research markets using the 1% rule as a starting filter. The 1% rule says your monthly rent should equal at least 1% of the purchase price. A $200,000 home should rent for at least $2,000 per month. This rough filter quickly identifies cash flow friendly markets. Step 2. Analyze the numbers with brutal honesty. Real investors use what's called a pro forma, a realistic projection of income and expenses. Your income is the rent. Your expenses include mortgage, property taxes, insurance, vacancy. Assume 8 to 10% of rent for empty months, maintenance reserves, budget 10%, and property management if you're not self-managing. If the numbers work after all of that, you may have a deal. Step 3. Build your team. You need a real estate agent who works with investors, not just buyers. A property manager who knows the local rental market. A lender who does investment property loans. A property inspector who doesn't sugarcoat findings. A good team turns a hard process into a repeatable system. Step 4. Make offers. Most investors look at dozens of properties before finding the right one. The ones who succeed are the ones who keep looking, keep running numbers, and keep making offers. Real estate is not passive in the acquisition phase. You earn the passive income by doing the work up front. Step 5. Close, stabilize, and step back. Get the property rented to quality tenants, put systems in place, and then watch the monthly deposits arrive. Once you've mastered your first deal, the most powerful strategy for scaling your portfolio is called the BRRRR method. It stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. Here's how it works. You find a distressed property, one that needs work, at a below market price. You renovate it, forcing appreciation and bringing it up to rental standards. You rent it to a reliable tenant. Then you refinance it based on the new, higher appraised value. Because you've added value through renovation, the bank now lends you more, often enough to pull most or all of your original cash out of the deal. You take that cash and repeat the process on the next property. The result? You've potentially recycled your down payment across multiple properties. Done correctly, you can own 3, 4, 5 income-producing properties, each generating monthly cash flow using roughly the same pool of capital you started with. This is how serious real estate investors build portfolios of 10, 20, or 50 units without needing millions of dollars in the bank. The BRRRR method requires skill, finding the right distressed deals, managing renovations on budget, and securing favorable refinance terms. But for investors willing to do the work, it's the single most powerful path to building a real estate empire from a modest starting point. Real estate passive income is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow, get-rich-certain strategy that has worked for generations of ordinary people who learned how money truly works and then had the patience to let it compound. If this video opened your eyes or even answered one question you've been carrying, hit subscribe. Every week, Property Playbook brings you the in-depth lessons, strategies, and stories that turn real estate from a mystery into a roadmap. Your first property is closer than you think.